reacts when he's behind.
So all of these things are part of how you see the possibilities of how that young man might fit into...
Well, you have to know how to win, you have to know how to lose. You have to be able to get along with people. You must have people skills because you're part of a team. You're just one link, and everybody must be a contributing link to have success.
And of course, when you say that you scout for the NBA, is there a specific team that you generally work with, or is there...
I work for the league. There's a guy by the name of Marty Blake out of Atlanta.
Talk to us about how that's
Marty
done.
Blake is the director of scouting for the NBA.
Okay.
At one time, I scouted for the Minnesota Timberwolves, and they wanted me to give up my job at Vanderbilt and move to Minnesota. And at this late stage in my life, I'm not ready for relocation. So I work with Marty, and we go around, and there are certain designated people that they want us to look at, and then we'll evaluate those people and send evaluation forms in.
And that is done, and now, is that for the purpose of the NBA, or is that for the purpose of the coaches?
NBA, no, NBA prospects. So when they get ready for the draft, and like in the NBA right now, you only have 2 drafts. 2 draft choices, so you cannot make any mistakes.
Okay.
And we try to eliminate the opportunity to make a mistake.
And so all of this is done really by the league in order to assist...
Each team has scouts too.
Okay.
But reinforce. They like Miami will scout a guy. They want another opinion. We're the other opinion.
And of course, it's that information that they'll put in.
It's passed on. Marty Blake will send that to all the teams in the league.
And they'll evaluate that information.
They'll evaluate that with what they have, and then they'll draw conclusions.
Well, have you been fortunate enough to have any of the persons that you've evaluated selected?
Well, we know who the good ones are.
Okay.
And if you're a suspect, we don't get you. And every once in a while, somebody will come out of the blue. But so many have gone up. Everybody know, like the top players, like the big youngster down there at Arkansas, Ray Charles, can see he can play. So you just evaluate him, and then use your evaluation to measure whether he's going to be your first, or a second, or whatever.
Well, let's talk about it, because I think a lot of you people might not understand exactly what is meant by these draft choices.
Well, you only have 2.
Okay. Now, what does that mean when you say a draft choice?
You're right to negotiate with a player, and you only have 2 choices. You can pick 2, and then you have his sole rights.
So each team can pick 2 players. 2 players.
Yeah. Now, sometimes with trades and things like that, you may trade and pick up a draft choice. But initially, you can trade your choices for whatever. But you only have 2 choices. Very delicate, very sensitive, and you cannot make mistakes. Because, like I say, you only have 2 choices.
Sometimes, Coach, we hear of blue chip players, players who are paid.
Well, all the guys that are drafted are considered blue chip. And then, like, you have the first 11 will be what they call the lottery.
Okay.
And they're going to make big bucks.
These are the persons that in reality can make a team. Is that what we mean?
Impact players.
Impact players. And teams are willing to pay
big bucks, like the youngster up there with Detroit, Hill. He's impact. And Shaquille and people like that, they were all impact players. Although sometimes you can make a mistake, but you don't want to make a mistake because it's going to cost you a lot of money.
Because now these are players where they pay exceptionally large salaries.
If you're in the lottery, you're going to make big bucks. And if you're a first-round choice, you're going to make big bucks. And the bucks are good for second round. Then the people who aren't selected in those first 2 can be acquired as free agents. And every team in the league can negotiate with these players for their services.
And so there's a possibility of making tremendous amounts of money for individuals in this league. Well, now, how can a team, Coach, and I think that this might be a question that our audience certainly is interested in, how can a team afford to pay $25, $30 million to a player over 7? And not only do we find this in basketball, but certainly we find it in...
basketball has a salary cap.
Okay.
They have an X amount that they can use for players, and that's it.
Well, now, but now in football, there is no salary cap.
There's no salary cap. And they're working on... Now, baseball, that's one of the biggest problems with the strike. They do not want a salary cap. But I think to stay in business, they're going to have to get a salary cap. It'll... Everybody be working in the red.
Now, what does it mean not to have a salary cap in baseball?
Well, it's wide open. You know, you can go crazy. And some of the small franchises in baseball, like small markets like Milwaukee and places like that, Montreal, they don't have the income. It'll run them out of the business.
And so only
Seattle's another one suffering right now.
Only the big teams,
the big guys, the rich stay richer. They stay richer.
And that's it. And so the idea of putting a cap on what the baseball players.
Keep some parity.
Okay.
It makes everything fairly even.
Give everybody an opportunity. Levels the floor.
Yeah, that's right.
Now, well, within the framework of your baseball career, and certainly you've been keeping up with baseball, what do you think in terms of this strike? I mean, who is actually benefiting from what is going on?
I think there's a lot of wrong with both. I think there's a little greed maybe with the baseball players. And I hope they get together because I think they're depriving our public of baseball. I'm a great baseball fan. And I hope they can get together. And I see President Clinton and his people are trying to get in. And I don't know if that's right or wrong. But I hope they get together on it because I think it's the great pastime, and I think we need it. It's good for our nation.
Well, when you talk about baseball, and I think that most of us probably are not sophisticated in terms of our knowledge of baseball. Certainly it's a 9-man game and somebody's on all of the bases and you've got 3 men in the field. But it seems to me that there's much more to it.
It's a finesse game. A lot of people do not like baseball because they do not understand.
Okay.
It's a finesse game. You have to have the skills. And I think we're talking about Michael Jordan coming to Nashville, and I think the biggest thing Michael's having trouble is hitting that baseball. I think that is the toughest athletic skill to perform.
To hit the baseball.
That baseball. You know, they're turning that ball on you. They're curving and making it go this way, that way, and I think that's the big thing. A lot of guys call home and say, Mom, I'm coming home to start to throw the curveball. And I think that's the biggest thing, speaking of Michael and baseball, that Michael's having trouble with.
And you think that if he can overcome that. Now, well, you had an opportunity to see him as an NBA coach. And now what were some of your evaluations in terms of his basketball?
Best basketball player I've ever seen.
That's...
Yeah, Michael is the greatest competitor I've ever seen. Michael could do it all. And he played from one end of the court to the other. Great defender, could block shots. And then he was Mr. Excitement. Then he put people in your ballpark.
You know, Coach, I think that certainly you deal with the academics of it and understand the importance of academics and athletics. And of course, let's talk about it from that perspective, because I think that in the NBA, no, I'm sorry, the NCAA, that there's been a number of issues raised dealing with Proposition 48 and 16 and et cetera, and et cetera. What are some of your thoughts in reference to that, and especially some of the ideas that perhaps in some areas the standards might be raised to such a level that it actually will, that they will actually keep some of the more deserving players?
Well, I think, as you know, you're an academic man, that I don't think you can really judge potential on exams. Minorities, and in particular blacks, do not test that well because of their backgrounds. And I hate to see them continue to raise the standards to deprive these kids of the education. But I think you must have standards now.
Okay, very good.
Let's stay within some boundaries.
And so